A week after the show's controversial season 27 premiere, South Park is taking the week off, according to a video posted Tuesday on South Park Studios' YouTube page, which also gave a little trailer of the next episode.
Playing out as South Park has now 48 more episodes to go with their new contract.
The reason South Park is scrapping another week after Ice Barbie attack, everyone saw South Park roast Trump without breaking a sweat, but now the big question is, why is South Park scrapping another week after the whole Ice Barbie attack? Turns out the real reason slipped out, and let's just say it's not some boring scheduling hiccup. I've got the whole messy story, and it's juicier than anything they put on air.
Inking a $1.5 billion licensing deal and a premiere episode that heavily mocked President Donald Trump. The week off likely has nothing to do with either event. South Park has been known to skip weeks.
Main part season 27 of South Park didn't just arrive quietly. It came in swinging with a jaw-dropping $1.5 billion licensing deal and a premiere episode called Serpent on the Mount that took a direct, unfiltered shot at Donald Trump.
I couldn't believe how hard it went. I mean, it went hard.
It went hard.
And bringing back, like, you know, remember the old Saddam Hussein, Satan? It went all the way back to old school South Park.
Old callback.
They weren't holding back, going straight for the jugular with political jabs, and then taking it even further by throwing in callbacks only longtime fans would recognize. We're talking deep-cut gags like the old Saddam Hussein and Satan bit vintage South Park chaos that made it clear the gloves were off. This wasn't a warm-up. This was a declaration that season 27 was going to hit harder than anything we've seen in years.
But now, of course, South Park is responding again in stride as these people make themselves look like the morons they are. Ice Barbie Christy Gnome might have hoped she'd ended the joke when she dismissed her heavily Botoxed South Park caricature as lazy and petty. Turns out she could not have been more wrong.
But right after that fiery Trump takedown, something strange happened. Instead of riding the momentum into the next week, the show suddenly went dark. No new episodes, just silence. For South Park, that's rare. Sure, they've skipped a week before, but not right after detonating a political firebomb like this. Fans immediately started speculating. Was this just a random schedule hiccup, or was something bigger brewing behind the scenes? That pause didn't feel like downtime. It felt like the calm before an even bigger storm. And that storm had a name. Christy Gnome.
And now you have idiots like Dean Cain, who used to play Superman, trying to join ICE like it's patriotic. No! If you join ICE, you're a loser. And a fascist. And you're scum who's on the wrong side of history and hopefully will get their own Nuremberg trials.
When South Park came back, they didn't tiptoe into it. They went straight for one of the most image-conscious political figures out there and tore her apart in a way that felt personal. Christy Gnome, the real-life Homeland Security Secretary, got reimagined as Christine Gnome, a high-gloss ICE commander who looked like she just stepped out of a campaign photo shoot. Perfect hair, flawless makeup, camera-ready smile, and a cold streak a mile wide. This wasn't a background gag or a quick cameo. This was a full-on character assassination, animated frame by frame.
Let me remind everybody what Christy Gnome is most famous for. It's not her stellar governance of South Dakota. It's not her groundbreaking policy initiatives. It is the fact that she wrote a book where she bragged about shooting her 14-month-old puppy in the face because it was, quote, untrainable.
Wasted no time setting the tone. Within minutes, Christine Gnome is on screen bragging about shooting her own puppy in the face. A shocking detail ripped straight from Gnome's own memoir, where she proudly recounted killing her 14-month-old dog because it was untrainable. South Park didn't need to exaggerate the cruelty. They just amplified it and dropped it into the most absurd, over-the-top setting possible. It was the kind of opener that made you stop mid-laugh and think, did they really just go there?
She literally thought that story would make her look good. She put it in her book as a point of pride. So forgive me if I'm not exactly crying about South Park making fun of someone who thinks puppy murder is a campaign selling point.
From there, they built an entire storyline around her, turning Ice Barbie into the face of a militarized border operation. She's leading fresh-faced recruits into raids, tossing around lines about bad hombres, and treating immigration crackdowns like beauty pageant appearances. Every scene doubled down on the contrast. Glamorous, Botox-fueled vanity on one side, and ruthless, boots-on-the-ground enforcement on the other. It wasn't just about her politics. It was about shredding the polished public image she spent years curating.
She claims that only liberals and extremists make fun of women for how they look. Really, Christy? Because I seem to remember your party spending the last 8 years attacking the looks of AOC, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, and let's not forget Donald Trump himself.
And that's what made it sting. South Park didn't aim for policy debates or legislative critiques. They went after the brand. The shiny, patriotic, small-town animal lover persona Noam uses to sell herself to voters was dismantled in a matter of minutes. By pairing the beauty queen visuals with brutal, unapologetic actions, they created a version of her that was both ridiculous and deeply unsettling. This wasn't satire that you forget by the next commercial break. This was a character hit so sharp it could stick with her for the rest of her career.
Donald Trump said the following about you, quote, "Look at that face. Would anyone vote for that? Can you imagine that, the face of our next president?" Mr. Trump later said he was talking about your persona, not your appearance.
The Trump roast may have been the warm-up, but Ice Barbie was the main event. And by the time the credits rolled, it was clear that South Park had just pulled off one of their most targeted, ruthless takedowns in years. The real twist? That wasn't even the last move in their game. It was just the setup for what would happen next.
You know, it's interesting to me. Mr. Trump said that he heard Mr. Bush very clearly and what Mr. Bush said. I think women all over this country heard very clearly what Mr. Trump said.
Then, right when everyone thought South Park had already maxed out its savagery, they pulled a move that wasn't even part of the broadcast episode. Trey Parker and Matt Stone quietly dropped a bonus, unaired scene online, and it was the kind of visual that detonates in the political arena and keeps exploding for years.
And yet, weirdly, no curling up in the fetal position by Kristi Noem for any of those women. Guess it doesn't count when it's the God King who does it, huh?
In this extra cut, their animated version of Christine Noem doesn't just carry out ice raids or boast about doing what's hard. She walks into a pet store and gleefully slaughters an entire room of puppies. Not metaphorically, not hinted at. Animated bloodbath.
Here's the part that really gets me. Noam says if they wanted to criticize my job, go ahead and do that, but clearly they can't. Oh, we can't criticize your job performance? Let's test that theory.
This wasn't some random late-night writer's room gag designed to make the internet gasp for 24 hours. It was targeted. In the real world, Kristi Noem has built her image on being an animal-loving, small-town patriot. Her social media feeds are filled with horseback photos, farm dogs, and curated Americana, the kind of branding that works especially well with rural and suburban voters. South Park knew exactly where to aim if they wanted the blow to land. In politics, hurting puppies is basically self-destruction in HD. It doesn't matter what your voting record is, that image alone can sink you faster than a scandal about taxes or insider deals.
Worst per capita death rates in the entire country. How about your bizarre obsession with culture war nonsense while your state struggles with really low rankings on poverty, healthcare access, and infrastructure?
The genius and the ruthlessness here is that the visual can't be walked back. Noem's real-life 14-month-old puppy-killing story, which she proudly included in her own memoir, was already controversial. By animating her doppelganger literally gunning down puppies in cold blood, South Park locked that association into pop culture. The joke wasn't just, she's cruel, it was, this is her brand. And because the clip was separate from the broadcast episode, it didn't vanish with the week's TV cycle. It floated online, shareable, replayable, ready to be dropped into every political debate or social media fight about her for the foreseeable future.
Noem, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, has responded, and as per usual, whenever this administration responds to something South Park does, it immediately blows up in their face.
That's why calling it a political meme grenade isn't an exaggeration. It's the kind of imagery that once lodged in the public mind doesn't go away. Every time her name pops up in a headline, there's a ready-made visual shorthand. Kristi Noem equals puppy killer. Even people who don't follow South Park or politics closely can process that message instantly. Parker and Stone know how to craft those cultural shorthands. They've been doing it for nearly 3 decades, and in this case, they loaded the weapon with something Noem herself had given them years ago.
South Park nearly doubled its ratings for the follow-up to the season premiere that centered on, as we said, Trump's teeny tiny manhood. The series drew far more TV viewers for its parody of Ice Barbie and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
When the backlash started rolling, Noem didn't try to ignore it, which might have made it fade faster. Instead, she went on offense, or what she thought was offense. In interviews and statements, She blasted the episode and the clip as lazy, claiming it was just another example of liberals and extremists attacking women for how they look.
Arresting Hispanic people, killing puppies, and using Botox, the DHS used the series to promote its ICE recruitment efforts. We also made a video about that. They posted this image on their actual Twitter account.
That's not a throwaway line, it's a deliberate reframing tactic. She tried to pivot the conversation away from the ICE raids, away from the puppy killing, away from her own record, and into a safe Republican talking point, victimhood via liberal sexism.
Homeland Security tried to respond to that, putting out a statement saying, "We want to thank South Park for drawing attention to ICE law enforcement recruitment. We're calling on all patriotic Americans to help us remove murderers, gang members, pedos, and other violent criminals from our country."
The problem for her was that the hypocrisy was immediate and easy to point out. The same political camp she's aligned with has spent the better part of the last decade openly mocking the looks of female politicians on the other side. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been called everything from childlike to crazy eyes in conservative media. Hillary Clinton's appearance was a staple punchline on Fox News and talk radio for years. Kamala Harris has been the subject of constant online smear memes.
She claimed she hadn't seen the episode because she'd been busy, quote, going over budget numbers and stuff. Which sounds like exactly what I tell my boss when I take the day off to play a video game.
Rosie O'Donnell? Donald Trump himself used her as a personal insult prop in debates and on Twitter. And then there's Carly Fiorina during the 2016 Republican primary, Trump's infamous, "look at that face." Would anyone vote for that remark was one of the ugliest moments of the campaign, and yet it didn't spark a pearl-clutching defense from Noam.
Now the Trump cabinet member known as Ice Barbie is hitting back, denouncing South Park as, quote, lazy and petty.
Her choice to go with the sexism defense didn't kill the story, it fed it. Every interview where she brought it up meant another headline, another social media thread, another chance for the puppy-killing clip to be embedded in the coverage. It's almost exactly what Parker and Stone want when they craft a hit piece like this. Keep the target talking. The longer she kept calling the episode lazy or unfair, the more opportunities there were for news outlets and late-night shows to roll the footage again.
Job. Because you're a stupid bimbo fascist pig and you kill puppies, and they portrayed that pretty accurately. And also to Tom Homan, go f*** yourself. You're upset about South Park portraying ICE in a bad light? Have you seen what they do? Is it any wonder they get attacked?
In political PR, there's an old rule: don't repeat the attack you're trying to deflect. Noam did the opposite. By centering her response on the portrayal itself rather than countering with her own narrative, she ensured that the most absurd, most damaging imagery stayed in circulation. And because her defense relied on a victim narrative that contradicted her silence over similar attacks on other women, it was easy for critics to dismiss it as hollow. In effect, she validated the parody by reacting exactly how the parody version of her might have reacted: aggrieved, dramatic, and more concerned with optics than substance. This is the trap South Park has perfected over decades. Hit someone in a way that forces them into a no-win reaction. If they ignore it, the joke stands unchallenged. If they respond, they amplify it. In Noam's case, her real-life history provided the setup. The bonus clip delivered the punchline, and her own public statements became the encore. Every part of that chain, from the unaired scenes release to the political spin attempt, kept the story in the news cycle longer than a standard episode ever could. And for a show that thrives on outrage as fuel, that's not collateral damage, that's the plan.